Hey guys, I'm filming this little snippet after I finish this upcoming video. It went on a lot longer than what I originally planned, but I had to go into detail of why I love the prequels, as you can tell by the title of this video. I had to go into detail so you guys would understand. For the first 5 or so minutes of this upcoming video, I talked about my backstory and my feelings towards the prequels over the years and how they changed and everything like that. And I'm trying to hurry this up because I don't want this to be like a X amount of minutes. But I'll put the timestamp of when I actually start talking about the prequels if that's what you're interested in, probably so. But anyways, enjoy this video. I apologize for the length, but I had to explain why I love the prequels, and hopefully you enjoy and stay to the end. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, what is up guys? Joseph here, and as you can tell by the title of this video, I have become a fan of the hated by many Star Wars prequels, and here's why.
Backstory on my feelings towards the prequels over the years. I grew up with the prequels in the sense where I was alive during the prequels. I wasn't alive during the originals, obviously, but I grew up with the originals in the sense of I was raised on the originals. But in the literal sense, I grew up with the prequels. Anyways, and as a kid, you don't really look at a movie as an adult does. You don't look at a movie as this piece of art, well written, well directed, well acted, all across the board like that. You look at a movie as a kid as, did I enjoy it? Was I bored at any time? That kind of thing. And the prequels, I wasn't bored. I was entertained from start to finish when I was a kid. And then as time went on, the hate that the prequels got more popular. And back when I used to actually care what people thought about me, I got made fun of. By friends at school, people at school that weren't really friends. They were they weren't really friends, but they weren't really enemies of mine. And some of my family at the time, looking back now, it was like picking, like families do. They pick at each other, just playing around, not really meaning anything they actually say. They just play around with each other. That sounded weird. Anyways, but at the time I was thinking I was taking it more seriously as an attack to me. So after a while, I changed my attitude towards the prequels, and I started to say that I hated the prequels while secretly liking it. And then as time went on, after so many years of saying that I hated the prequels, I started to believe that I hated the prequels, and I forgot how much I actually liked it. And then about a couple of years ago, there was something that I'll get into a little later. There was something that came out about the prequels that dealt with a certain character that a lot of people hated. And I'll get into that more later. That changed my view on the prequels as good movies. Now, don't get me wrong before I continue. I am not saying that the prequels are flawless masterpieces of movies. I am not saying that. I am not saying that the prequels are better than the originals. I'm not saying any of that, because I don't believe that. I like the prequels. I enjoy them for what they are, but they're not flawless. And let's be honest, neither are the originals. I love the originals. Don't get me wrong. You guys know how much I love the original trilogy. But they're not flawless. I'll get more into why I think that the originals are not flawless a little later. But as I was saying, there was something that came out around a couple of years ago that changed my attitude towards the prequels, and after hearing about it, I decided to rewatch them. And I kept putting it off until Star Wars Day, May the 4th, for anybody else who doesn't know. May the 4th is Star Wars Day. And with that thing in my mind, I enjoyed the heck out of the prequels. A lot more than what I've been telling myself for the past however many years. I'm not even sure. I'm not even going to try to guess. That's really all for the backstory, I guess, of my feelings towards the prequels over the years. Now let's go ahead and get into the reasons why I think the prequels are, like I said, I'm not saying they're good. They're fantastic, well-made masterpieces. I'm not saying the original or the prequels are better than the originals. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying basically that the prequels don't deserve the amount of hate they're getting. That's what I'm trying to prove in this video. And first things first, let's go ahead and address the thing I was talking about earlier with something that came out a couple of years ago. If you go up to someone on the streets and ask why or do they like the prequels, and they say no, 9 times out of 10 those people, when asked what is your main problem with the prequels, 9 times out of 10 when people are asked that question, it's always the same answer: Jar Jar Binks. Now, as a kid, I didn't love Jar Jar. I didn't hate Jar Jar. He was just there. He didn't really bother me. He didn't really make me angry as as so many people claim he did. But there was something that came out about Jar Jar, and I'm pretty sure everyone's heard this by now. If you haven't, I'll be very surprised if you haven't. Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're probably saying to yourself right now if you haven't heard that theory. Jar Jar Binks is a freaking idiot. I was scrolling through comments one day on a YouTube video. I'm not sure what exactly it was, but it dealt something along the lines of the prequels and Jar Jar. And I was scrolling through the comments, and somebody said that Jar Jar Binks was, and I believe I'm quoting him here. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines of, "We hate Jar Jar Binks because he was useless, clumsy, idiotic fool, who added nothing to the plot of the story, whose talking was annoying to people, who the way he talked was annoying to people." And it got me thinking. Clumsy, useless, idiotic fool who added nothing to the plot, whose talking could be annoying to people. It got me thinking, why does that sound familiar? Oh, how can I be so stupid? That's exactly what Yoda was when he was first introduced in Empire. Don't believe me. I'm not talking about when he was first introduced and revealed as a Jedi Master later on in the movie. I'm talking about when Yoda, his character, was first introduced. In that 5-minute, roughly, clip of Yoda throwing Luke's stuff out left and right, banging on R2 with his walking stick saying, "Mine, mine, mine," like a German. That's exactly what Yoda was when he was first introduced. Then, when he was later on revealed to be a Jedi Master, we realized that it was all an act. To see how Luke would, if Luke had patience. That's what Yoda was doing. He was testing Luke to see if he had patience. Jar Jar Binks, I was there, like I said, a couple of years ago, a theory came out about him being a Sith Lord, and there was videos to prove that he was using mind tricks. And, you know, at the time, because I hadn't rewatched the prequels in a long time, at the time, I was thinking they probably did some really good editing to make Jar Jar Binks' arm move and his mouth move. Because I've seen those, like, weird trailers on YouTube where I think it was one video what was the channel's name? Aldo Jones, I believe, the channel's name, that does those weird trailers. That he made Batman v Superman. It was the Doomsday trailer that he made Batman look at the camera and wink and then look back at Superman. I was thinking that was pretty much the exact same thing they did for the Jar Jar Binks, was just like do some really good editing where they do the hand movement and everything. As I said, I rewatched the prequels, Phantom Menace, May the 4th, Star Wars Day, whatever you want to call it. And they weren't lying. That is in the movie. And that's not all. There are several pieces of evidence that proves that theory could be true. 97% true. Could possibly be true. But, and just some of the proof, George Lucas said Jar Jar was the key to everything. Ahmed Best, who was the guy who played Jar Jar Binks, and several other cast members I've seen that said that was the case. George Lucas said that he wanted to create parallels between the originals and the prequels. Jar Jar was the parallel to Yoda. Jar Jar Binks was the reason that the Emperor, Chancellor Palpatine, whatever you want to call him, got in power. There was so much proof that was going to happen. And I wish that George Lucas wouldn't have chickened out because of the fans' outrage, the so-called fans' outrage. Because if he had gone through with his vision, Jar Jar Binks to reveal as a Sith Lord, it probably would have been one of the greatest movie twists in cinema history. Jar Jar Binks would have been one of the greatest Star Wars characters, up there with Darth Vader, up there with Luke, up there with Han, up there with Yoda, up there with Princess Leia, all of them. Jar Jar Binks would have been among them, instead of being this idiot that people make fun of. Another piece of evidence, Jar Jar Binks has yellow eyes. And I know if you probably don't watch Star Wars, which I really don't know why you'd be watching this video, but you know, if you pay attention closely in Star Wars, what characters have yellow eyes? Villains, Sith Lords, Emperor, Darth Maul, Anakin in Episode 3 when he killed those Newt Gunray and the rest of those the other people, the Trade Federation separatists. Villains in Star Wars have yellow eyes. Jar Jar, it just ticks me off, because that would have been so freaking interesting to see how that would play out. But because people, I can't even call them fans, because thanks to them, thanks to those so-called fans, we didn't get the Darth Jar Jar. Second reason is that the story is more complex and more richer in the prequels than they are in the originals. In the originals, the story was the main storyline was essentially the unlikely hero farm boy going off to fight the Empire. That's essentially what the main story was. Of course, there's several like minor storylines. A major storyline to me is something that is in every single movie. Whether it's a trilogy, whether it's franchise, it has to be in every single movie. At least a little bit in every single movie. The Han and Leia relationship didn't come until episode 2, so it's in between a minor and a major. It's in between that. There was a Jabba's palace story arc. There was quite a bit of story arcs, but the main story arc was Luke going off to fight the Empire, unlikely hero farm boy going off to fight the Empire. In the prequels, it had four main story arcs. I know what you're thinking. The main story arc is Anakin's rise as Darth Vader. That's one of them. Like I said earlier, a main storyline to me is something that is in every single movie. The four main storylines was Anakin's rise as Darth Vader. It was also Rise of the Emperor. It was also the romance relationship, no matter what you think of it, the romance relationship of Anakin and Padme. It was also the brotherhood of Obi-Wan and Anakin. Those four story arcs and all the other story building that was going on in the prequels, I could go on and on about that, but they were more complex and complicated than the originals. Now, I know I'm probably going to get hate for that, but this is my video. Whatever. The third reason is better duels, better fights. Obi-Wan versus Anakin, episode 3, enough said. Don't want me to continue? Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, episode 1. Yoda versus the Emperor, episode 3. Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, episode 2 and 3. The only duel in the prequels that I wasn't really that big of a fan of is the Yoda versus Dooku. Or, I forgot about the Obi-Wan versus Grievous. I don't know which one I like. But those two are really the only duels in the prequels that I hate. Or dislike, rather. The originals had, in my opinion, the worst duel in probably not only Star Wars history, but in movie history, period. Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader in episode 4. In terms of story, that's one of the most important, but as a fight, as a duel, no. That, who put it? I think it was like the Honest Trailers that phrased it as the two old guys poking at each other. That's essentially what that duel was. And while we're on that topic, for the, and it's funny because people, when asked what they hate about the prequels, they say Jar Jar Binks, but they also say that it's mostly dialogue and talking and trade federations, and the prequels had just as much, if not more, action than the originals. Go back and watch the prequels, because if you think that, you probably haven't seen the prequels in a while. Because the prequels, like I said, it had... I didn't time every single action sequence like this. Action sequence lasted 5 minutes. This one lasted 2 minutes. This one lasted 10 minutes. This one lasted half an hour. I didn't do that. But I'm going by what it felt like. The action in the prequels was the same, if not a little more, than the originals. like, for everybody to say that the prequels were all dialogue and talking, the originals had a lot of dialogue too. And the originals, let's not pretend that the originals didn't have bad dialogue. The originals didn't have Oscar-winning dialogue. Let's not pretend that Star Wars, and I love it. Y'all know I love it. I'm not downplaying or criticizing, saying this dialogue should be better. It's Star Wars. It's not an Oscar winner screenplay. It's Star Wars. It's not Silence of the Lambs. It's not any Quentin Tarantino movie. It's not any Coen Brothers movie. It's Star Wars. It's not Oscar screenplay material. It's like the only thing that I would put Star Wars in the Oscar category is the special effects, sound mixing, and all that. Like the technological. Jesus Christ. Like the technology side of the Oscars. Those kind of categories are really the only thing I would put Star Wars under. And not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but to pretend that the originals had like Quentin Tarantino dialogue, no. Stop pretending. I acknowledge that see, I could do a whole rant on each one of these single reasons. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the prequels are better, but I'm saying that the prequels don't deserve the amount of hate, because I'll continue with the positives of the prequels, and then I'll do because there are a few bad things that I still don't like about the prequels. I'll go ahead and admit that there are still some things that I hate about the prequels. I'll get on to them later on. But as for right now, let's continue on with the positives. And this one I know I'm going to get a whole lot of controversy for. And if you're still watching this video, I appreciate you hearing me out, but I don't know how people are going to react to this one. Hear me out, like I said, hear me out with these reasons, and I will explain why I think this way. I think that Anakin Skywalker is a better character than Luke Skywalker. And the reason I think that way, and there's still room for improvement, or not really improvement, because Luke is a great character. I'm not taking anything away from Luke. What I'm talking about is the motivations behind why the character is doing what he's doing. And like I said, there's still time for Luke to surpass Anakin, because he's still alive in the new trilogy they got going on. And with Last Jedi coming out this year in December, who knows? Maybe he'll surpass Anakin in The Last Jedi. But the reason I think this way is because Anakin's motivation and backstory is richer and interesting than Luke's. Anakin's backstory is essentially that he was a slave, got taken away from his mom at like age 9, I believe they said. In the first movie, he was a slave and got taken away from his mom. And he fell in love with Padme in the first movie. He started to become he ended the movie with being an apprentice. The second movie, he fell more in love with Padme. Padme fell in love with Anakin. He started having nightmares about his mother dying, night after night after night. When he asked Obi-Wan and the rest of the Jedi Council, "What do? I need help," that kind of thing. Jedi Council told him to essentially, you shouldn't have feelings, personal feelings for anybody, whether it's your mom, a girlfriend, brother, anything like that. You shouldn't have personal feelings like that. after a while, after he kept having dreams. He finally had enough of it. Went to Tatooine, his home planet that he got taken away from in the first movie, and found his mom on her deathbed. But before that, he found out that he has a stepbrother and a stepfather that he had nothing about. Finds out that his mom had got taken by Tusken Raiders. Mom got abused, tortured, beat up, and then he found his mom essentially on her last breath, like seconds before she died. And you cannot tell me for a fact, you cannot tell me without lying through your teeth, that if you had dreams about your mom dying night after night after night after night, and when you next see her, she dies, you cannot tell me that you don't rage and murder and slaughter every single thing that was the cause of it. You cannot tell me you don't get angry. You cannot tell me you don't get moody. So when that whole scene, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this, when that whole scene happened, when Anakin was talking about how he hates the Tusken Raiders and how he killed every last one of them, the men, the women, and the children, you cannot tell me that was bad dialogue. Could have been delivered better? Sure. But you cannot tell me that you would not say anything like that. You would not be moody. You would not be angry. And he's a freaking teenager? That just adds to it. And then in the third movie, you start having similar dreams like you were having of your mom, but this time to your wife on her deathbed when you know that she's pregnant. You cannot tell me you do not. Oh my God. And you save the galaxy time after time after time after time, and you're still not respected by the Jedi Council. And then you find a new friend that actually cares about your feelings, about your wife. I think, yeah, they were married. Okay, your wife and your offspring. You cannot tell me. And then you cannot. And then you find out that that new friend is a Sith Lord. And then you become conflicted with everything you've known and your feelings and everything like that. Your so-called allies essentially don't care about your wife, your offspring, anything like that, but you know that they're good. You know that they're the people that keep peace and blah blah blah. And then on the other hand, you have your one friend who is everything that you were born and raised and trained to hate and track down and arrest, take control over, defeat. You cannot tell me that you could not become conflicted, because on one hand your allies don't care, but on the other hand you be conflicted with everything you've ever been taught in your whole entire life. And I believe I looked it up because I was actually curious. And Revenge of the Sith, Anakin was like in his late 30s, early 40s. I can't remember exactly how old it said he was, but that's a long time to come up with like this mindset of the Sith bad, Jedi good. You cannot tell me you would not be conflicted. And then all of a sudden, and you know it's the right thing to do, you turn your new friend into the Jedi, and you offer to help take the Sith Lord down, because you know it's the right thing to do. And you still get denied, rejected to help. Time after time, you get appointed to the Jedi Council. You are not appointed the title of Master. after all of this stuff, there was some more, but I really don't feel like this. I could, like, I'm telling you, I could do like an hour video talking about every single one of these reasons I got. And I appreciate you guys probably listening right now. I'm not sure if any of you probably quit watching. I don't know. I probably did, but I'm not sure. Anyways, you cannot tell me that you would not be conflicted when you come across one of your allies and your friend that turns out to be your enemy. And your ally comes up and essentially tries to kill, he didn't essentially, he tried to kill your friend who was your enemy. And in a split decision, I could snap better than that. Split decision, you turn your back. He didn't have an hour to decide his mind. It was a split decision he made just on the spot. You cannot tell me you rate the way the pros and cons of, do I side with people that are treating me wrong, but they are good, they're the right place to sign up with, they're the good guys, they're what's best for the galaxy? Or do I side with someone who can possibly save my wife, but he is everything that me and my wife have been raised and trained and have been raised to hate? What would any of you do? Save the wife, or be a part of a group that really doesn't want you? Because if they did, they would rank you the title of master after you've saved the galaxy time after time after time. You've proven yourself worthy of Jedi Master time after time, and you're still denied even able to help. People saying that, I'll get more into that, because that's some other reasons, but I'll get more into that, what I was about to say, a little later, because that's some different reasons that I got. And Luke's essential backstory, why he did what he did, was because his uncle and aunt got burned alive. And that's terrible for Luke, but comparing the two backstories and motivations of what they're doing, Anakin's is better. I don't know if people are going to agree with me on that one, but in my opinion, Anakin Skywalker is a better character than Luke. Like I said earlier before I started with this little backstory of Anakin, there is still time for Luke to surpass Anakin. He's still alive, and by the looks of the trailers, I honestly don't know what to think, because when I first saw the trailer for The Last Jedi, I still don't know what to think, because Luke said that the time for the Jedi to end, I don't know what to make of it. Like, there are theories going around that he's a Sith. There are theories going around that he means for, like, the mindset of the Jedi, for, like, no, you have to be, like, clear-cut good guys, like, no killing, no, like, nothing of that. Maybe that's what he was doing, is, like, still good, but have more, like, an anti-hero kind of a thing going on. I don't know. Honestly, I'm clueless what is going to happen with Luke, and I'm curious to see what happens. Like I said, he still could surpass it. I might can do a video after I see Last Jedi, giving my thoughts on who I like more, because if the trailer is any indication of how Luke is, like, if that trailer is like true indication, that's not one of those like trailers that is like fake or anything like that, like is misleading, Luke could surpass. Like, I'm serious. Luke could surpass Anakin as my I don't know if Anakin is my favorite character, but Anakin is above Luke. Anakin / Darth Vader, I include them in the same thing. But I'll get more. I'll probably will do a video talking about which one I like more after The Last Jedi between Luke and Anakin. Because Anakin's storyline wrapped up really with 6 movies. Luke has only had 3 movies. I'm not counting Force Awakens as a movie with Luke because he didn't show up until the last minute. If that, I'll say the last 30 seconds. But like I said, he still could surpass Anakin. And one more note on this whole Anakin and Luke character, which one's better, blah blah blah. I find it funny because talking about parallels between the prequels and the originals earlier. In the first movie of their respective trilogy, Anakin and Luke, in the first movie, they were a whiny brat. In the second movie, they were a whiny brat with the lightsaber. In the third movie, they were the character we know and love today. Because Mark Hamill himself who is the actor who played Luke, in case none of you know that, Mark Hamill himself has said that Luke was a whiny character. He makes fun of Luke. If the person who plays the character admits of a character flaw or a character personality trait, you cannot argue with anything about the character. You cannot argue that Luke is not whiny. You cannot argue that Luke is a badass until the third. The third movie is where Luke is Luke. The Luke we know and love today is the third movie. The second movie, he was in between, but he was probably like 51% whiny, 49% serious. It was close, maybe not that close, but it was close. But he was like flirting with the line, but more on the side of whiny. But in the third, like, it's funny because people talk good about Luke and bad about Anakin, but they're essentially the same character in terms of like character progression. Maybe not the same motivations in the backstory like I talked about earlier, but like character progression in the trilogy, it's essentially the same thing. Like, okay. Fifth reason. Ian McDiarmid, and for those of you who don't know, the Emperor was a heck of a lot better in the prequels than he was in the originals. Then again, in the prequels, he had more time. He had more to do. In the originals, he was only in the third movie, really. I really don't count those hologram messages back and forth. Like, I still don't consider Snoke to be in... Like, in The Force Awakens, Snoke wasn't really in. Like, I don't count, like, those hologram messages, transmissions, whatever you want to call them. Like if you know what I'm talking, I don't count the Emperor being in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. I don't count Snoke being in The Force Awakens. I don't think anybody was a hologram in the prequels that wasn't in the movie physically. Not that I remember. Anyways, like I said, he had more to do in the prequels than he did in the originals, so that might have something. That probably will have something to do with it. But that brings me to another reason that deals with character performance. And this one isn't probably as controversial as the Anakin and Luke reason that I had earlier, but I don't know if people are going to agree with this one or not. And that is, I like Ewan McGregor's version of Obi-Wan a whole lot better than I do Alec Guinness. That's no disrespect to Alec Guinness, Sir Alec Guinness, pardon me. But Sir Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan reminds me a whole lot of Dumbledore from Harry Potter, and a whole lot more of like these mentors in these like fantasy movies. And that's the main problem I have with these mentor characters is they care mainly about like the mission at hand than the actual character. In Dumbledore's case, he didn't care really about Harry. He cared about defeating Voldemort. And Obi-Wan's place in the originals, he cared about defeating Darth Vader and the Empire more than he cared about Luke. That's why he was raising him just like Dumbledore was raising Harry, to keep him safe until it was time for him to go off to fight. And Gandalf in Lord of the Rings is... It's been a while since I've seen Lord of the Rings. I'm probably going to rewatch them soon, but I remember. I don't remember any kind of like hints or possibilities. I'm sure that is a possibility that he is more interested in like the quest at hand than the actual character, but I'm not 100% sure. Whatever. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't really say for sure how I feel about Gandalf, but I'm not saying that Alec Guinness did a terrible job, or Richard Harris and what's the other one that played Dumbledore? Michael Gambon, I believe that's his other name. The other actor's name. I'm not saying they did a bad job. I'm not saying Sir Alec Guinness did a bad job. I'm not saying Ian McKellen did a bad job as Gandalf. I'm saying I just don't like those like mentor characters that are mainly focused on the mission at hand than the actual character. And they're fine. That's fine being like focused on the mission, but care at least a little bit about the character. And Dumbledore's case is obvious, and Obi-Wan's case, it's like half and half. Like I'm not sure what to think, but it's like teetering with the line between. Like I honestly don't think that Obi-Wan and the originals cared really about Luke. I don't. Maybe you guys will agree with me. I don't know. But Ewan McGregor, the Revenge of the Sith alone, he was great in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, but Revenge of the Sith, man, the last, hour? Or really the entire movie, now that I remember. But mainly after the Order 66. After that really is when he really shines. Anyways, next reason. This one, I honestly don't know why people hate this, and that's the pod race. I like the pod race. I don't get why people hated it. If you're one of those people, comment down below and let me know, because I'm actually curious why people hate the pod race. It was necessary to happen for Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme and the rest of them to get off of Tatooine, because their ship broke down. They needed that part, and it was essential because that was the cause of Anakin going off to. That was the cause of Anakin becoming free and going off with Qui-Gon to become a Jedi. like I'm curious to see, because I don't know why a whole lot of people hating on the pod race. I can understand Jar Jar because he's annoying and blah blah blah, just like Yoda was when he was first introduced. But I'm curious why people hate the pod race. I don't know about that. And an eighth reason is world building. That's essentially what the prequels were meant to do, was expanding the mythology of the originals. It was giving backstory to unanswered questions from the original trilogy. What all happened in the Clone Wars? Yes, they didn't really spend that much time on the Clone Wars. If you want to know more, watch the freaking television show. But I actually liked Hayden Christensen. Rewatching it, like I was talking about, my reasons with liking Anakin more than Luke. If you had lost your mother and dreamt about it for months, and find out that she had been tortured and abused and beaten by Tusken Raiders, you cannot tell me that you would not be moody and angry. And most of the hate of that Hayden Christensen got, I'll get more talking about it later, because that's really the main problem I had with the prequels, and I'll get more into that later. But I'll be sure to come back to the Hayden Christensen main problem, whatever. The 10th reason is, well, the 11th, I forgot. 10th reason is that it had more action, if not the same action, if not more action than the original trilogy. And the 11th reason is Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. I do wish that Qui-Gon had been like a Force ghost and more prominent, I guess, in the prequels than what he was. Because I was actually a fan of Qui-Gon's character. He was a powerful warrior that flirted with the line between good and evil, because he was not really the clear-cut Jedi that Yoda or Obi-Wan is. He was like Dooku before he turned evil. If you guys don't know the backstory of Dooku, he essentially turned evil when Qui-Gon died. And Qui-Gon and Dooku were master and apprentice, and they did not like how the Jedi Council would handle business issues, whatever you want to phrase it as. I was a fan of Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. I wish he would have been more of a prominent figure in the prequels, but whatever. And now that I talked about the good things, most of the good things that I liked about the prequels, I'm sure there are some that I left out, but those are the main ones that I could come up with. Now, there are really only two. There's really only one major problem I have with the prequels, and I'll get more into that a little later. The first one that I can live with, but it still kind of hurt the prequels, is Padme is not as strong of a character as Princess Leia. Padme was essentially a damsel in distress that really only had one action scene in the prequels, and even that, well, she showed she could hold her own for a while. I'm not going to say she could hold her own for she didn't get killed, so I guess that has some kind of weight to it. But as a whole, most of the time she was like a side character that was like only meant to accelerate Anakin's rise as Darth Vader. That's essentially what she was made for. It would have been better if she had like more character development as a character, because essentially she was Anakin's love interest. Other than that, she wasn't really that interesting of a character, really. And the main problem I have with the prequels is the writing. Like I said earlier, the originals didn't have the best writing either. That's where it really fell apart. And when I'm talking about writing, I'm not talking about like the story. I'm talking about like the dialogue. Because, of course, writing deals with both dialogue and story, but in the case that I'm talking about, when I'm talking about the originals didn't have good writing, and the prequels didn't have good writing, I'm talking about the dialogue. And it's funny because I've most of the dialogue in the prequels, it's fine. It's not like I said earlier, it's not Oscar-winning dialogue. But it's fine. For Star Wars, it's fine. But there is a few that it's not good. And it's kind of like when you were in high school or middle school or elementary school or college, whatever. It's kind of like when your entire class is full. Let's say 30 people. 29 people are good, behaved, well mannered, does what the teacher says, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. Like 29 of those are good people, like in the school, in the classroom. And then there's one bad kid, adult, whatever the case may be, college, school, high school, whatever. There's one bad student that ruins the entire class. Like if that one student messes up, or like if that one student does something that the entire class gets in trouble for, and I'm pretty sure everyone's been there, I have several times, the entire class is punished, really. And that's essentially what those few bad apples ruin the entire prequels. The few bad lines of dialogue, and really the main one that people make fun of is the sand. I just had to say that one word in your mind. If you've seen the prequels, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sand. I acknowledge that it's not good dialogue. But I don't hate it, really. I don't love it either. It's just like it's there. Like Jar Jar was before when I was a kid, before like the Sith lore theory came out. The sand line was just there. It was like, okay, whatever, move on. Like I saw a video of what's the channel's name? Star Wars Theory, I believe. They do a whole lot of like these alternate reality kind of things. Like, for example, one I just got finished watching not long ago was like, what if Anakin Skywalker killed Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar? And they do kind of those things where it's like alternate reality and backstory. Like, there's a scene, and that's another positive I liked about it. The prequels was the scene between Anakin and Chancellor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, when that opera house scene with Darth Vader, Chancellor Palpatine talking to Anakin about Darth Plagueis. There's a theory going around that I saw not long ago of Darth Plagueis being Anakin's father. It said that George Lucas said that there was two theories that I saw, actually. I just remembered another, that Darth Plagueis or Chancellor Palpatine was Anakin's father. The original plan that I saw George Lucas talk about was to reveal that Chancellor Palpatine was Anakin's father, because that would have been another parallel between the prequels and the originals. But something happened in that he changed his mind or whatever. But the Darth Plagueis story, I've actually become a fan of. I used to think it was just stupid, but after really hearing and listening and thinking about it, and hearing all of these like stories of Darth Plagueis and how Chancellor Palpatine at the time was the Emperor, killed Darth Plagueis because Darth Plagueis was his master. And like hearing all of the stories about Darth Plagueis and everything, I'm not one of those people to think that Snoke, and I know there's a theory going around everywhere that Snoke is Darth Plagueis. If you don't know Darth Plagueis and you heard me say that the Emperor killed Darth Plagueis, you're probably thinking, well, he's dead. You just said it yourself. Darth Plagueis is essentially invincible. He can like transfer his being into like other bodies, and there's some other powers that he has that I can't remember. Like I said, I just started looking into Darth Plagueis like not long ago, so if I seem like I don't know anything about Darth Plagueis, it's really because I don't. Other than like the Emperor killing Darth Plagueis. That's essentially really the most I know about Darth Plagueis. Anyways, that's all that I can think of. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, I am not saying that the prequels are flawless masterpieces. I am not saying that the prequels are better than the originals. In fact, as a like enjoyment, I prefer the originals. I can rewatch the originals more than I can the prequels. And that, like I said, like this video is not to have like this misunderstanding of me saying that the prequels are better than the originals. This video's purpose is to perhaps open your eyes and show you that the prequels are better than what you think, better than what you thought. Whether I appreciate you guys still listening to this video. If you made it this far, if you did, congratulations, thank you so much. But that's like my thoughts on the prequels. Like I said, they're not perfect movies, don't get me wrong, but neither are the originals. I love the originals, I love the prequels, but they're not masterpieces. That's it for this video. I'm saying way too much. I just said it again. Jesus. That's it for this video. As always, like me on Facebook at JMash97, follow me on Twitter at JMash97, links in the description below. As always, hit that subscribe button, go to my channel if you're finding anything you're interested in. I just started, like if you can tell if you're a subscriber to me and you're watching this video, I did private a whole lot of my pretty much all of my videos except for like a few, and that's because those videos I am editing, and the ones that I posted like years ago, like I've been doing this for a while. It feels like forever. Like when I first started YouTube, I'm refilming and updating like the top 10 Disney movies and top 10 whatever I did back in the day. Those kind of videos that I did back then, I'm re-editing, re-uploading, refilming most of them. It'll take me some time. But I think that's about it. As always, mash out.